technology company. Appreciate you.
Thank you for joining us this evening, Mr. Pierce. Next up, we have Destiny.
Hello, everyone. I'm Destiny. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I currently work on the HR team as well, doing trainings.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for being here with us. Steve, Brother Sims.
How you doing? My name is Steven Sims. I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a telecommunications professional. Is the way to say that. So I'll pass it on after that.
Next up, Rob.
My name is Rob Coggins. I'm originally from Cleveland. I live here in Cincinnati now. I've been here for 7 years. I work in patient transportation at Jewish Hospital in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I'm just a guy of good energy, man, positive vibes and faith all the way, no negativity. And I love to have fun. And I'm a music lover.
Awesome, awesome. Good to have you, good to have you. And we got Mr. Frugal Freddy. Can you introduce yourself to the people?
Well, my name is Al Wilson. I also go by Frugal Freddy. I'm originally from Cleveland, go Browns. I currently live in Columbus, and I work for Nationwide Insurance as a senior consultant.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Miss Monisa Mason. Introduce yourself to the people, please.
Hey guys, so it's me, Monisa Mason, the co-host of Mixed Company. We are so excited to have you guys engage with us tonight. As you've seen us post, tonight is our season finale. So we are sad to have to leave, but we will be back in the fall. And so we are definitely looking forward to bringing new guests, new topics, new engaging conversation, and just bigger and better things in the fall. So we're gonna have some fun tonight. As you see, we're a little guy heavy, but that's okay because me, Destiny, and Lauren, we're gonna hold it down for the ladies tonight. And so those of you that are watching, please just put your comments, your questions, anything that you want to say, put it in the comments, and we will try to include you in the conversation as well, especially the ladies, because we gotta get some more lady energy up in here. So we are definitely glad to have you, and we're gonna go ahead and get started with the first question of the night. So we just gonna jump right into it, okay, guys? So how do you build healthy foundations for your relationships? How do you build healthy relationships or foundations, for your relationships? And it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic relationships. If anybody can jump in.
Boundaries. I mean, I feel like that's the beginning and the end. And no matter if it is a romantic relationship or if it's friends or family, people need to understand that there are things that you are okay with and some things that you're not okay with. And I think that as long as you have that understanding and that they respect your boundaries and you also implement those boundaries, you can build really healthy, loving relationships off of that.
I'm all about boundaries, so I feel you, girl.
Anybody else want to take the question?
I got one. I would say giving grace. I think oftentimes in relationships, we think our partner is perfect and they're not. And extending that grace in times of turmoil or beef, we all beef with our spouses, but giving that grace, I think that's true love. Like, it's never going to be peaches and cream. If I can extend that grace and hopefully it comes back to me, I think that helps with a good relationship, romantic and non-romantic. So it's extending grace.
Can I jump in on the grace?
Yeah.
I don't want to monopolize the time.
Within reason, though. Within reason.
No, I think that's such a good point. A friend of mine who I hadn't really spoken to a lot during COVID, she actually said to me, she was like, thank you for being really understanding that even though we have all of this time and so, we're at home and we're working, that you're not expecting for me to call you all the time or text you all the time. And she's like, thank you so much for having that grace to give me space. And I was kind of taken aback by that, but yeah, I think it's really, really helpful for relationships. So I'm so happy you said that.
Yeah. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's hard.
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
It's hard. It's a muscle that you gotta work towards, especially in marriage. Especially in marriage.
I would like to add something to that. I think, well, for the question, I think when you say, what's a healthy foundation, or, what are the basics or whatnot, I think you have to be able to identify those. And that can be difficult because everyone is raised in different homes. So, to your point of, some things I might not be okay with, somebody else might be okay with, or whatever the case is. I think you have to identify those and you go from there. Because if you don't know, you don't know. So what you think is okay around somebody else, they like, no, I don't know. And it's like, well, what? And that's where it comes to you examining yourself and examining certain things that you grew up with. And then you're saying, okay, you know what? That's not okay. I hurt feelings, or I hurt his feelings. And again, that doesn't have to be romantic relationships, man, just friendships, in terms of being there and whatnot. So I think you have to identify those first. And then once you're able to do that, then everything else will follow. Because your whys, instead of you just trying to figure it out or blame people why the way you are or whatnot.
Right.
And I think just to piggyback off of that, I think something else is vulnerability, being open to just being yourself and letting those walls down. I think it's easy for, everybody has been burned at some point in their life, whether it was a friend, a significant other, family member, we've all gone through that. And so it's easy to put the wall up when you've been burnt. And so being able to be open and honest and being able to let that wall down a little bit when you are trying to lay that foundation with whomever it is. And I feel like a lot of people shy away from vulnerability because we don't want someone to see that side of us, or we don't want someone to get turned off, or, maybe as a man, you may feel like I don't want them to think that I'm soft or I'm weak or whatever the case may be. But I feel like if we're able to be more open and be more vulnerable and show people who we really are, our authentic self, those that are supposed to be in your life will appreciate it and they will stick around. And those that are afraid of that vulnerability or make fun of that vulnerability, then those aren't your people. And so if we can get more comfortable with being our true authentic self, you can see who will start to kind of dwindle, and that'll let you know who's really supposed to be in your circle and who are the people that's not healthy for you.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I think that, it was funny when you guys started out with boundaries, because some of the best relationships that I've ever cultivated in life have begun with openness. Not worrying about boundaries, not worrying about any of that, just being my complete and total self, because again, there's a weeding out process that's involved in that. And not everybody is supposed to be around. You got a reason, a season, and a lifetime. So there are people that aren't supposed to be around you. And if you are catering to what you think people like, or you're trying to be someone that you're not, you're going to attract the energy that is not really you. And at the end of the day, you have all of these people around you, and they may be great people, but they're not great for you. So that's the piece that you really have to be careful in the beginning. Everything is built on a hard, solid foundation. So if it's hard in the beginning, it gets better later. So understanding and being clear in who you are is the hard part that you have to go through in order to get to those friends that really understand you and want to be around you and understand what you're about, and they give to you. A lot of people can take from you. You'll find that often that, you'll get in situations when you're not yourself, you're going to always feel like people are taking from you because they're drawing energy away from you because you don't mesh.
That's good.
I would only add that I think the basis of all of those, what I consider one of the main foundations, is communication. right? Like in any relationship, you have to have not just
Right.
communication, but effective communication. And I found that to be true, not only, of course, with my in my marriage, but even with my relationships with my homies, friends, fraternity brothers, whatever. Effective communication is the key. That helps you understand things like boundaries. That helps you understand things like vulnerability, and all of those things. And I do think that over time, and all of us, you know, have friends that we probably had for long amounts of time in our lives. And what you do is you build a certain level of relational equity, you know, right? That gives you, you know, that sense of comfort. Like, I know I can go to, you know, this brother, right, and say, you know, hey, I need some help right now because I'm really struggling, and whatever the issue may be. And that vulnerability, to your point, I can't remember who mentioned that, forgive me, but whoever said that, you know, the vulnerability is something that, you know, we're almost taught from a Western way of it not being okay because it shows weakness, when in reality, I think it shows strength to say you need help, or to be able to go to people and say you need help.
And I want to add to that, and it's really a problem with us males. I'm very on social media. I'm very open about that. Like, hey man, if this is your brother and this is your friend, you could tell him you hurt me. You know what I mean? Like, that hurt my feelings. But to your point of, you know, we got to be big and bad and not show that, we'd rather not speak to each other, you know, and you don't even know what the problem is after a while, just because of ego and pride. But I always talk about that. Be vulnerable. You know, if you did something, own it. You know what I mean? Say you sorry. Like, it, you know, don't worry about somebody, if they're gonna hold it over your head or whatever, that's their issue, like, not yours. You know, you got to be able to just get that out so you can work or whatnot. Huh?
That was just a little feedback. It was all you.
Oh, what'd you say?
I said it was just a little feedback.
But yeah, so I just, yeah, that's definitely like I said, something that we have a problem with. But I'm trying to, even people in my circle, I'm trying to get them to do more of, and to be honest, they're even doing way better than it has in the past. And I think that's probably with me not clowning them or, you know, doing whatever. Like, no, be open, man. This is mental health right here. Be open. Let me know what's going on, the ups and downs, or whatever the case is, anything I could do to help, or even just listen. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
And it's crazy that you bring up mental health. So one of our followers, Devin, she said boundaries are essential across the board. We need to normalize preserving our mental health. And that is so important. We have to be more intentional about our mental health and what are we doing things to preserve our peace, to preserve our happiness and our joy. And so, you know, sometimes you have to set that boundary to let someone know, I love you, but this ain't it right now, you know, and we have to get more comfortable with doing that with everybody, you know, boundaries with family members, boundaries with significant others. I mean, boundaries with kids, for those of you that are parents, we have to be able to do what we need to do to make sure that we are our most healthiest self, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And once we find ourselves in a space where we are full, then we can pour into others and everyone else around us. But like the cliche saying says, you can't pour from an empty cup. So we have to lay those foundations and those boundaries for our own self so that we can be the best version of ourselves for everybody else around us. So while we're on this, wait, did you have something?
Go ahead.
So while we're on this topic, so another question that we have for you guys, and Ray and I, we've had a good conversation around this topic. What do you look for? Like, what qualities are important to you when you think about your circle? So, you know, your tribe, your crew, your gang, what are some personality traits or qualities that are important to you when you think about your friend circle? And when me and him when we were talking about this question, I kind of went off on a tangent because I was talking about how there's these memes, and I'm sure you guys have seen them on social media, that says stuff like, if your group chat isn't talking about investments and real estate and this, that, and the third, you need a new group of friends. And I said, I'm not a fan of that meme because I think that you need to have a healthy balance. I don't want to sit in group chats all day, every day, talking about investing in real estate and growing a business. Yes, we can have those conversations sometimes, but I also want to laugh and shoot the shit, shoot the breeze, crack a joke. I think that that's healthy. And so I don't agree with those memes that are floating around saying that. But, you know, what do you guys look for when you think about your friends?
I think for me, just us just elevating each other to the next level. And that's whatever it is, you know, whether it's their profession or even just with us as men, or whatnot. Pretty much just look for that, you know what I mean? Not really looking to be negative and say, I can't do this, or I ain't gonna be able to do this, or placing blame, like, you know, none of that. Just all positive. And I'm not saying everything is gonna be positive. It's gonna be some stuff, but just when you're feeling down, you can go to your circle, man, and they there to uplift you, even if they clown you, but they uplifting you, you know, at the same time. So, I mean, I guess for me, it's just, you know, being able to be transparent, being able to be vulnerable, you know, humor, of course, and, you know, of course, loyalty, you know what I mean? So, I feel like I should be able to, like, even if I'm crying, like, have that moment and not feel like you about to get on the phone and call somebody else and be like, man, let me, you know, guess what? This dude just had a full blown moment. No, like, let me be open. You know what I mean? Let me be open with that, you know, because I'm confiding into you something obviously that I trust you with. So
I think one of the things that I've realized about myself is, so I don't think that I've ever like sought out anything in a circle, right? Like my life experiences has brought people into my circle, and as I've grown, I've started to cultivate that circle in a way that that is the best version of it that I think it can be, right? And so sometimes you'll have those friends that you thought were an integral part of that circle that are kind of just holding on for dear life and ultimately fall off, you know. And so one of the things that I've realized that I need is accountability, right? Like for someone like me that's a big personality, right? Like I sometimes seem like I have it together. Like a lot of my friends or so-called friends, like wouldn't ever hold me accountable for my shit, right? And so that left me with years of being someone that I didn't want to be or I shouldn't have been. So, you know, as you grow and you have men in your circle that, you know, that have lives and partners and situations and their fathers in the way that you see yourself, you know, wanting to be, I think those things start to become more apparent and more of what you look forward to keep in your circle.
Yeah, I kind of want to piggyback on what Ray is saying as far as like, I don't think I've ever sought anyone out or like sought a friendship out. It's, I feel like these are the words that we've been using a lot lately just in society about like vibes and energy. But I think that's kind of what I go off of is somebody that has like good energy and you just really, you have a connection. Like you just met this person, but you feel like you've known each other for 10 years. But I like to have fun and I like fun people. But I also need to know that you like to read, you know? And then you know what's going on in the world. So, you know, I'm like, I feel like if Sophista Ratchet was a person, it would probably be me. And I think that that's kind of what I'm looking for if I were to seek anything out.
Yeah, I think no, go ahead, Destiny. Go ahead, ladies first.
Thank you. I was just saying, as far as like vibes and energy, something that I appreciate about my friends is, and I also look for when I bring like new people into my circle is if they can get along with my other friends and family. You know, like I because I moved around a lot as a child, like I have a lot of friends in different places. And so I like the idea of us all being able to be in community together, even if you met this person through me. And so if I have a friend where I feel like I can't bring them around certain people or bring them around my family because, you know, they might be more guarded or, you know, negative or, you know, have like overly opinionated, like that is something that can be a hindrance in our relationship later on. But one thing that I will say is, for the most part, I haven't had that issue. And so I think that also speaks to my character, but also like my friend's character and our ability to be able to be in community with each other, even if they didn't meet each other, if they only met each other through me. So I think that's also something.
I'm gonna plug in real quick someone from the audience. So Vern said, diversity amongst my circle is relevant because I get challenged to think differently and gain new perspectives. Also, having a diverse circle is great when it comes to resources, talents, and skills. I think that's a really good point too. And depending on where you're at and where you're from, it may or may not be hard to have a diverse circle, but then I guess that would challenge you to be a little more open to putting yourself in new places that will, you know, kind of force you to build relationships with people that are different than yourself. But go ahead, Nate. I know you had something to say.
No, that's great. Vern actually kind of stole my thunder, but no, I was gonna say I would say the one thing that I would say is the common denominator amongst people I consider like close friends or what have you, is authenticity. I know Rob had mentioned earlier loyalty, you know, is in there as well. But I like the authenticity of people at this stage of my life. Now that's the other piece is I would say like what I looked for maybe in a friend or whatever when I was 20 definitely isn't the same when I'm 35 or 40 or what have you, right? Because now we're a little bit more sensitive to the things that we have, like our family or what have you, and we're not, you know, open to just having just anybody, you know, around, you know, our people, whether that's because of what they do in their lives or their profession or just the people that they are. So you really, as I've gotten older, I would say that things have kind of evolved. I wouldn't say change as much as I would say evolve, because that's why some relationships don't stand the test of time, right? I feel like you maybe, you know, evolve at a different wavelength or what have you, or a different vibe than some of the people that you knew or that you grew up with. And I think that as part of, you know, that the things that you need or the things that are important to you change. But I would definitely say the main thing is authenticity, right? Like I love it when people are 100% them, right? Because even if, to go back to something Lauren said, like even if, you know, I might have a friend who's not, you know, up on stocks or Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or whatever else, you know, but this is my guy and I know I can count on him because he's being authentic to who he is. Like that's not his area. And that speaks, I think, to the diversity of with which you need to have. I can't remember where I heard the quote, but one of the worst decisions you can make is have everybody around you that thinks just like you. You know, so in having a diverse circle, you can have, I think, very good conversation, but then also get different perspectives that can add, I think, to the greater good or to the or contribute to what I feel like can make us all better people.
Well said.
I wanted to piggyback on something that was said earlier about if your group chats don't talk about money and all this. I have, you know, we all got group chats, and personally, I would much rather not talk about that stuff with my friends. My friends, like, as you guys can see, I don't know if you guys have been following the Joe Budden stuff, but they were friends first, and now it's blown up. So I would much rather want my friendship than some money, if that makes sense.
I'm sorry, what happened with Joe Budden? I missed it.
The podcast just blew up.
Yeah, he fired his two co.
Yeah, and they were friends over money, over contract, over all that. So I'm the financial guy, and my 3 core friends or 4 core friends, we don't talk about money. We talk about life. You know what I mean? And I would much rather have my friendship over a business or making money, because money is just, it's money at the end of the day. It's a piece of paper. So
Come and it goes.
Yeah, it comes as a resource. So it comes and it goes. I agree.
Right.
Do you ask your friends like how they are investing their money or saving their money? Sometimes I'm just curious, like as far as my friends go. I think also because I have friends that work in finance. And so I'm like, what do I do? I need to be an adult.
Right. Well, oftentimes, no, you're right. And this, I think, is a delicate balance. I don't like to push because people's money is personal. So if it's brought to me, I'll give a perspective. And it goes back to the relationships. Like one thing that I've learned is that, you know, if you have an opinion, you know, I typically try to ask the person, do they want my opinion before I give it to them? And that has helped me.
I'm working on that.
Like I say, do you want my opinion? They say, yeah, all right, I give it. If they don't, we just roll with it. But I would say, like, from time to time, we do talk about money, but not often. And I think we all have different friend groups for that,
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say, like, when I think about my different friend groups, they all give me something different.
Right.
And so I know that if there's something that I'm looking for, I know who to go to for that. I know who to have those conversations with. If it's something that is, spiritual and more faith-based, I know who I can talk to about those things. If it's something that's a little bit deeper about, life, and, I know who I can talk to about those things. So I think it's important to just know who you can talk to about certain things, and don't try to have a conversation with the B group, because it may not turn out the way you want it to, because they're just not there. And there's no knock to the B group at all. It's just, that's not the type of friend you are in my life. But I know that I can go to the A group and talk about these things or whatever. So, and I guess that kind of just goes back to Vern's point earlier, the diversity, because diversity doesn't necessarily have to just mean diversity in the sense of Black, white, Hispanic, whatever the case may be, but diversity as far as mentally, where are you at, spiritually, where are you at? Because, mentally I could be A, and mentally my friend could be B. I can pour something into her, but then when it comes to something financially, she may be A and I may be B, and she can pour into me, in that realm. And that's where that good balance is at, making sure that you have friend groups where there's a good balance. Because I don't want all my friend groups where we're always just clowning and talking nonsense and there's no substance. What are we doing? We're too old for that. So yeah, I definitely think you just got to know what bucket to pull from. So yeah.
I would also like to add that. I would also like to add that regardless of what pool a friend is in, opportunity is different, right? And I think that's one piece of it that we should never, shy away from. Like, if there's an opportunity for anyone that I consider to be a friend, or if they have one for me, that's something that I would expect, or I would hope that they would expect from me to share that opportunity with them, and vice versa. And not like-minded opportunities where you need me to sell something every month. Not those.
Right.
Not those opportunities.
Yeah.
You don't want to sell knives, right? You don't want to sell knives or get into a pyramid.
I'm good on your multi-level marketing.
And I'll add something in that, but it's a little bit different. It's not just a quality that you'll see every day. The ability to recognize. Like Ray just said, hey, look, if you meet me, I ain't selling no damn knives. Why you asking me that? Just going all out of the way, friends, everything is cool. People that really recognize who you are move forward. When you talk about the financial conversations, dog, you made 25 G's. All right, you got $100,000 portfolio. Bro, I'm not listening to you on no damn financial advice just because you made $20,000 last week. I don't give a damn about that. Shit. At the end of the day, it's like, man, just be yourself. Everybody, you see everybody's a financial guru on damn Instagram. I don't want any friends that don't make money. Y'all broke ass. Come on now. Everybody ain't got money. You know what I'm saying? Come on now. Everybody got money. I'll put your little PPP up, do whatever you got to do. But at the same time, it's just like you really learn and grow so much from those people that are authentic. And they bring something to you and they say, this is who I am. I'm fucked up. I'm in a bad state. It's cool. I got friends from drug dealers to CEOs. It's all good though. We can all chop it up. My birthday's coming up at the end of the month. You will see them all. It look like a gangster party, but it's one of them things that we just do. And it's not like anybody's judging anybody, but the common link is I weed through all that. If you're not a genuine person, I don't even want you around me, because what it does, it just corrupts the way I got to operate with you. Even in circles of friends, I just tell them straight up, hey, look, man, they not doing what you're doing. We're going to have the car talk when we ride. I'm going to hit them on the phone. Look, hey man, they doing something different. Don't be judging. If you judging, bro, you gonna have to go on out the door. But you know what I learned out of that is it keeps real people around you. And that's all you really want. You know, is there's a quality in any friends, any friendship that you have. The realness is what you enjoy. Whether or not they agree with someone or that, you ask yourself this. You like, oh, I don't want people to be offended. Have you ever seen a healthy, happy, emotionally balanced person that was easily offended? Ask yourself that. So you know something's wrong with that person when they're just easily offended. They think everything applies to them, and it doesn't. That's a I'm the center of the universe type of activity, and I don't even want you around that. The selfishness and all that, throw it out the door. You know, just go on and be by yourself. You're not for me, because I'm a loving and giving person. I don't care about, you know, when you said that, Freddie, about, you know, money, it comes and it goes. You know, you come to Atlanta, I'm gonna treat you to a nice time. I ain't gonna worry about that. That's always, you know, the world is meant to be experienced and not owned. So once you realize that, you have a better life. You know, you take the kids, like Ray said. Ray sounded like a real daddy when he dropped that down there. Like, hey, look, you know, I had to get some people out of my life. I had to get some people out of my life.
That's real, though. That's real.
That's real. And you know, Nate said the same thing. And man, I've been throwing people out since, you know, 88. So it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, but they all hitting it right.
But I think it also goes to self-awareness, you know, and I think that's a superpower that, you know, in the friendship group. And if we're not self-aware, we won't know that this vibe that I'm getting off is not good for the group. Right. And I'm a huge fan of law of attraction. So you attract what you are essentially. Boom. So no, I agree with you, Steve.
Yeah, I've been pleasuring myself since I was 11. I know what it is. You know what I mean? Myself, you know what I'm saying?
You know what, Steve.
I'm so happy right now. No.
Steve about to get muted. Oh Lord.
Right. Where's the mute button? Steven, and my little sis Adelaide, she shouted you out in the video. She said, I like Steve.
Oh yeah, you know what I'm saying? I try to be cool, you know what I'm saying? I've been working at this for, I ain't gonna tell you how many years though. I'm pretty sure.
All right, so I think this is a good segue to the next question. So how do you know if something or someone is no longer good for you? How do you recognize that sign that is just no longer serving you?
Most people don't.
Facts.
Most people don't. And I'll be the first to say that throughout my lifetime, I have been one of those people, you know, holding on to things for longevity's sake. You know, you assume that because you've known someone for so long that, or you've been in a relationship with someone for so long that you've invested this time, energy, and effort into it, that there should be some, you know,
reciprocation.
Exactly, either reciprocation or return on investment or something like that. And that's just not always the case, right? Like, you know, when you go out and blow money, you don't necessarily get a return on that investment other than the good time. And so like sometimes people, like Steve said earlier, there's a reason, a season, and a lifetime. And being able to identify those things before they take their toll on you is a skill that comes with age. It's not something that you learn to do early on at all.
I have a different perspective on that. I think people ultimately show their true colors, and you got to believe them when they show it. Especially when it relates to friends, romantic, whatever. People will do things that you're like, you know what, that doesn't sit right with my energy. I know we talk about energy and vibes. Like, I think our generation trusts our body more than our mind, and our body would never lie to us. Our mind can lie to us in certain regards. So I think, you know, if you have a homeboy and he's kind of off, we got to trust that energy that he's giving off. That doesn't rock with me. So, you know, man, we can separate, you know, and call it a day and just be about that. So.
Well, I feel like that perspective, though, is not something that, you know, when I was 21, 22, that I would have identified, right? Like, you know, if my homie slept with the babe that I was dating, then it was like he did me a favor. Like it was, you know, like if that was really your babe, like he wouldn't have let her smash, right? So like that energy, I was being told that I'm supposed to be okay with it. You see what I'm saying? So like that, there's an emotional intelligence there that was lacking at that point. So I don't think that I had ever even thought about the someone's energy as it related to me until very recently, you know? So I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I just don't think it's something, you know, like when we're young, we're attempting to fit into spaces instead of cultivating our own, that we like all of that shit really goes out the window, or at least it did for me.
And I want to say, oh, no, go ahead, Rob, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Rob, you got it.
No, I was going to say too, I know the first question was, you know, what do we seek in our relationships? And I gave the rundown. So I'm not about to act like I sat there and was just able to identify it. It was, you know, a bunch of, especially for me, a bunch of experiences that was just like, you know what, like that wasn't cool. And even on my end too, on some accountability, like, you know what, that wasn't cool. I shouldn't have did that. I shouldn't have said that, you know. And again, that goes back to, you know, having that self-awareness and identifying what it is that's holding you, or, you know, maybe you identify something in something else that's holding you, you know what I mean? So that was a real good point right there. Real good point.
So I want to piggyback on something Ray said, because he talked about essentially emotion. And the one thing I found to be very true, because I have all girls, right? So I'm married and I have 3 daughters. So I'm in a house full of all women. And my running joke, right, is that they take up all of the emotion in my home. So they leave me with this much. So I have to be everything non-emotion, because they use up the number of emotions in the house. But what I mean when I say that though is that, like, I feel like as we grow older, right, we develop intellect, right? And that's how we determine whether or not we're smart or whatever. Like your intellectual quotient or your IQ aligns with wisdom, which is the proper application of knowledge. And a lot of times, you know, we have people who are smart, right, but they're not wise because they don't know how to practically apply that knowledge. And to Ray's point, you learn a lot about yourself with time, and you learn a lot about the knowledge that you got earlier and how to apply it with time. And that same thing can be said of relationships. But I will say this, there are so many people, men and women, who never fully quantify or learn how to control their emotions. And that is so evident, I feel like, in every area. And that's one of the things I feel like that does separate marriages, relationships, and even relationships between women and homies or what have you, is not knowing how to effectively manage their emotions. Because you can grow, you know, smarter or whatever, have a great intellect or intelligence, but never evolve or grow emotionally. And I feel like that's something that is a true, to go back to the original question, is a true definer of like when sometimes it may be time for someone to leave, you know, your life or a relationship to just outgrow. Because you think about, let's just say you got somebody who you grew up with in the hood and they're, you know, got a short fuse and they're a fire starter, you know, and they never get let go of that. And as you grow, maybe you become a mother or a father or a spouse or what have you. Like, you have something different to live for than when you did when you were on the corner doing whatever. And if that person still wants to continue to live that life, then you know that you can't, you know what I mean, with where you are in your life. You got to separate yourself at that time, because your life has changed and evolved in a manner with which they haven't. So I know that that's a little bit all over the place, but it was a couple of things in there that I want to jump in real quick, namely the emotional piece and the intellect piece, but then also, like, you know, the knowing when it's time to move on. And I think it was Frugal Freddy who said, when people give you an opportunity to show you who they are, believe them. And that's a mantra that I've always found to be very true.
That boy good, man. He must have went to Alabama A&M.
I did, man. Best school in the world. Best school.
Where's the mute button? Where's the mute?
My bad.
So, you know, for me, and I was joking with Ray about this when we were looking at these questions. And for me, anyone that knows me knows that I'm the cut off queen. So if I get the energy, the vibe that I feel like it just isn't serving me, I typically have been the type of person that I'll just cut you off. And I've done that in friendships because at the end of the day, my mental health and my energy and what's around me is most important. But one thing that I realized just in 2021, and any of my friends that are watching are probably know what they probably know what I'm about to say. But I kind of got to this space where I was just like, well, maybe it's not about just because someone isn't giving me what I feel like I need doesn't necessarily always mean that I need to cut them off. Maybe I need to just reposition them in my life. And I think it goes back to the conversation about boundaries, right? I think we are, as a generation, uncomfortable with setting boundaries. We don't know how to set boundaries. Wait, Steven, what you doing over there?
Man, I'm listening, baby. Hey, shit.
You know what?
I know. You telling the truth on God.
But
This camera off too.
right. But I think, we all talk about boundaries, but let's be real. How many people are really comfortable with setting healthy boundaries? And so I think instead of setting boundaries, a lot of people, the go-to is just, I'm gonna just cut you out my life. You just gotta go. I don't want to deal with it. And that's another thing. How many people can really effectively communicate, be vulnerable, and problem solve? If I have an issue with you, whether you're my friend, my significant other, or my boss, I can talk to you about the issue so we can fix the energy. Or I could just say, I don't want to deal with this at all. So I'm going to run from it and just cut you off. So I think sometimes there are people in our life that absolutely should not be in our life anymore. But I think sometimes we may have a habit of letting people go that it could have been fixed if we handled it differently, but we're too scared to have those uncomfortable conversations. We're too scared to set those boundaries. We're too, just want to take the easy way out. And I mean, that's everything. When we think about dating and the new trend with ghosting, people don't want to have those conversations. I'm going to just ghost you because I don't really care. I don't owe you a conversation. And I can go on and on about that. But, for me personally, I just have to get to a place where it's like, I have to discern who do I cut out and who do I just reposition and have those conversations with.
So I think that starts with family, actually, right? And so I think that like the lack of boundaries actually starts with family. I think, buddy, sorry. I think in many instances, like as children, like we are forced to do things that we don't necessarily want to do in situations we don't want to be put in. Like we're hugging relatives that we don't know, and like all of these things, right? Like that as a parent now, like I absolutely give my children the ability to say no, or not make them hug family members that that they don't know and don't feel comfortable or don't feel that emotional attachment to. So I think that like we came up in a time where we weren't allowed to question things, and so now
Nationalism.
right, and so now like we're cracking that ceiling, and doing things differently. So I do think that boundaries start with family. And I tell my mom all the time that she doesn't tell me things because she knows that I'll tell people about themselves, right? Like, so I'm that family member that like they keep certain things from because I don't sugarcoat shit, because I want to protect those that I care about the most. And a lot of times we make ourselves uncomfortable in order to make other people comfortable. And I think that once we start to take care of ourselves first, everything else will start to fall into place.
Damn, Ray, you just defined unhealthy. You defined it.
A couple of comments in the on Facebook. So Adelaide said, when you outgrow friends, do they deserve to know, and do you ghost your friends? And then Michael said communication is a lost skill in 2021. So I don't know if anybody wants to address Adelaide's question about outgrowing friends. Have you guys ever been in a situation where you outgrew a friend? And if so, did you actually have a conversation with that friend about it, or did you ghost them?
Well, I think it depends on, I think it also depends on how the friend looks at the situation as well. I think that sometimes you outgrow each other and you both know, and you kind of both go your separate ways, but there's always like a love and a respect that you have for one another because you have had that friendship for so long. So you know that you can come back together at some point in time, but you're not going to have that friendship that you once had. So I find that has happened to me more than, oh, I outgrew this friendship and now I need to tell this person that it's no longer a thing. But I'm also somebody that does not like confrontation. So.
And I was just gonna say something about that too. A lot of people don't want to hurt the other person's feelings or whatnot. So again, the easiest way is, you know what? Let me stop answering the calls. Let me stop answering the texts and things like that. Yeah, I mean, again, if you want growth, you got.
We can't hear you.
74950. You on mute?
Oh, we lost you. We can't hear you.
Your mic went out.
Robert.
Uh-oh.
No.
Well, while you get your audio together.
Oh, okay, I'm here. I'm back.
He's back.
Look, she's about to say, cut me off.
God, won't he do it?
No, but what I was gonna say is, I have a saying that I go by, you know, make your uncomfortable comfortable at all costs. You know what I mean? And again, how can you grow if you're not having uncomfortable conversations? You're not being honest, you're not being blunt or whatnot. And I think too, you know, another thing is the truth is overrated. Like nobody really wants to hear the absolute truth. Really, people really want to hear you lie about it, make an excuse about it, then telling, you know, the honest truth. So you just got to have those conversations. And I know, you know, to your point, is it Lauren?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, okay. I just want to make sure.
Lauren,
Yeah, like you don't like you don't like confrontation. You know what I mean? But you can work your way into it. It doesn't have to be all out. Like, you know, some people may prefer, but at least to where you get your point across of, you know, this is how I'm feeling. This is genuine, and this is where I stand. And, you know, however that person takes it, that's just what it is. Because at the end of the day, man, sanity is everything. Your peace of mind is everything. If it's compromised or threatened, you're not living.
But Ray said something really important around like the family, and if you're never taught how to have uncomfortable conversations, it's kind of one of those things that you have to learn through experiences. And so depending on where that person is with that experience, they are not going to be in a place to have a conversation. And I don't even want to say people are, I guess we can use the word fear, but another word for fear is anxiety. And anxiety is a real thing. You can want to have a conversation, but be very, very much anxious about it because no one has ever showed you how to do that. And I think that's also important for people to think about is, and that's why it's important to have friendships where you actually know where people come from and experiences that people have had, because you are more empathetic to the fact that they we're in a situation with family or previous friendships where, or even relationships where they couldn't be honest about how they felt, whether it was like abusive or et cetera. And so you take that into account when you have interactions with them. And so I also think it's important to think about that as well. Yeah.
So Michael said that there has to be recognition of the problem, and wisdom is important. And Token said that, you know, maturity is something also. And I know for me, I've been in both situations. I've ghosted a friend and I've had the uncomfortable conversation. And I think for me, the wisdom and the discernment in ghosting the friend was because I know her personality, and I know that if I would have came to her with the issues or the concerns, it would have became confrontational, and it wouldn't have been a productive conversation. So in my mind, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna ghost this relationship. And it was a very tough decision to make, but I had to make it. Whereas a more recent situation, I had the uncomfortable conversation because I knew that I could talk to her. And it was very uncomfortable for me. It was very uncomfortable for her, but a lot was resolved in that conversation, and we were able to move forward to a certain degree. And so it was easier to have that conversation. So, to Michael's point, as far as, is it even worth having the conversation? Is really just dependent upon the person. And if you even want to go there, because like to Lauren's point, I'm not trying to be in confrontation with someone, especially as a grown woman. And so if I feel like I can't come to you as my friend and have an honest, vulnerable conversation with you without you becoming defensive and then it turning into something even bigger, I'm just not going to have the conversation with you, because it's not going to end well, and it's going to go from a 10 to a 100. So I'm just going to not say anything at all. And in hindsight, do I feel like I should have had that conversation? Sometimes I'm like, maybe I should have had that conversation. But a big part of me is like, nah, it still would have went sideways.
I don't think men,
emotion.
Yeah, I don't think men really evaluate our friendships in the same way that women do, just based on that. Like if somebody does something that I don't like, I say something to him in that moment, right then, right there. We might fight, like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's how we process things. So I think like for men, right? Like, I think the interests start to spread apart, right? And it just becomes like not even like conversation isn't really necessary, right? It's like, do you want to do this? And I'm like, no, I want to do that, right? Like, and then I'm like, well, do you want to do this? And like, no, I don't want to do that. And so your interests start to not be aligned anymore. And so it's sort of like this natural parting, of people. But like, I don't think that I've ever like just had a conversation like, I don't think we should be friends anymore. Like, I don't think that's ever.
But it doesn't go like that with women. At least with me, I'm not going to say I don't think we should be friends anymore. It doesn't go like that.
Y'all have to have long, drawn out conversations about it. Men, we process that type of stuff like a White Castle. It goes in our mouth. It's going to be some shit later on. And that's just how it goes. As soon as that happens, and all y'all, everybody, Ohio or whatever, y'all know what it is. So, like, we ain't going to drag that on. I'm a Gemini, so I got the innate ability to be everything to you in your mind and nothing at the same time. So I probably didn't add any value, but when I see that point, I understand, because there are people that, kind of linger that on and don't know how to separate. And you got to go at it head on, full direct eye contact, and tell them, look, that ain't what I'm about. And you got to ask yourself, if you can't do that, then you got to turn around and look at yourself and say, hey, look, it's me. I'm the problem. I probably let this person through a gate that they probably should have never had a pass through in the first damn place. And now they got here. I don't know what the fuck to do with them. Well, guess what? That's on you. You got to make a decision, and then you got to grow up within yourself and say, hey, look, wall off. Hey, look, bro. You ain't even my cup of tea, bro. You just gonna have to go on do whatever you gotta do. Look, little baby, it ain't working out. We had a great time. Everything was good. Talk slow, soft to them, make them feel good about themselves. But at the same time, little baby, hey, you know what I'm saying? This train then came to its last stop. So you just gotta kind of tell people that, because they'll keep being in your life. And if you don't, you guys talked about boundaries and everything, and this is just for the audience. And I think you asked a question in there, just somewhere in the audience. But in all of that, you really have to take responsibility for your wellness. Ray stated it the best, when he said, he defined health in understanding yourself first. So if you're a person that doesn't know how to sever ties, you got to be guarded on how people come into your life a little bit more than others. If you're a person like me that, hey, look, I know how to cut off a friendship mid-ride like Uber, so, I can put you out, like, hey, little baby, hey, I called an Uber right here. They're going to meet you at the QT, and they're going to take you on where you got to go. And that's the same way you got to look at your life, because everybody ain't meant to be a ride. Treat yourself as a valuable resource. Would you waste gas on the ground? Isn't oil valuable? Isn't gold valuable? Isn't money a tool? You are the same thing to your friends and the other people around you. So treat yourself like a resource. And those people that aren't worthy of that, then you got to quickly get them off of the titty. Because if you allow them to stay on the titty too long, they're going to what? Suck you dry. I'm sorry for being blunt. I'm my bad. Ray over there dying. Like,
You good. We told you, let your hair down. So
oh,
Stop it.
hey, my hair left 10 years ago, baby. Ain't nothing to let down.
So somebody had kind of touched on this earlier when it comes to like family and friends and stuff. And so this is actually a question that we have for you guys. So I'm gonna just kind of pivot to this next question. Why do we ask our family and friends for the truth when we honestly don't want to accept or hear it when they tell us?
I don't ask them for the truth. Who said that?
Who's doing that? I'm not sure. When I ask my mom for advice, I know my mom is going to go to the extreme. And so I just take the extreme and then I just divvy up what exactly I can actually take from what she said. Because my mom, she's from Detroit. And so her response is like, you want me to pull up on him? I'm like, well, we can't do that right now, mama. Like he got to go to work tomorrow. It ain't that deep. So
Right.
I figure out what I'm comfortable with and go from there.
I learned you never ask somebody for something that you're not willing and ready to handle. So if you want the truth, then you really need to be ready for the truth. So I'm not that person.
Well, I guess that's just a point of, when we talk about, we want loyalty from our friends and we want them to be really honest, then that's where it gets kind of tricky because, especially if you got that friend that's not sugarcoat nothing, that's going to tell you how it is, and you don't want to hear it and you can't take it a certain way. And once again, the relationship probably needs to be evaluated or whatnot. But again, we expect these things from people. But when they tell us about ourselves, it's a whole different thing. So I guess just what is it that we really seek when we're asking for the truth? Honestly, what is it
one of the ladies need to answer that, Robert. Seriously. They always asking for the truth and they don't really want to hear it. So I want to hear what they're gonna say. I'm gonna be quiet.
I already
hey, yeah, y'all, you know what? Hey, good one, Steve. Y'all are on blast for this one.
Always asking for the truth, unable to like a bag with gas in it. It ain't gonna work.
So I know for me, and this isn't just in regards to relationships, but I think what's important is you have to check the source of who you're asking the advice from, because just because you're my mom or you're my best friend or even you're my mentor, it doesn't mean that your truth is my truth. So your perspective on things could come from your own lack of healing, triggers, pain. And so if I'm asking you for advice, I have to be able to be wise enough to discern. I can't go to every close person for advice. You have to check the source. And then just to kind of touch on Steve's point, for me, delivery is about everything too. So it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. And so you can be giving me the hardcore, honest truth, but it's all about how you give it to me. And I think it also goes back to who the person is that's giving it to me. Are you giving me the truth and advice and it's constructive? It's going to help me. You're coming from a place of love and I really want you to do better. Or is this low-key maybe coming from a place of jealousy or, oh, this is my moment to really just tell you about yourself. And so I think we have to be wise enough to understand you can't go to everybody for advice, even if you think that you can. And so I know for me specifically, as I've gotten older, because I am a Christian and my faith is very strong, I don't typically go to people for advice. I go to God. And that's where I find my censoring. You know, there may be times where I may tell a friend about something that I have going on, but it's not coming from a place of I'm really asking for your advice. I'm just kind of telling you what's going on. So I think it's really important that if you are the type of person that wants to talk to people about your problems, you have to be wise about who you're talking to, because unfortunately, everybody doesn't have your best interest at heart, even if it is someone that you would consider a best friend, a family member. And it's not saying that they intentionally don't have your best interest at heart, because they may think that they do, but you don't know what demons, what they got going on that they trying to work through, and you don't want them projecting that on you in their advice.
Or that
I
they
just-
have like a different life perspective, you know, like I think about people that just, they don't want maybe the same kind of lifestyle, or they don't have the same kind of habits or interests. So it's hard to take advice from people, because you know, sometimes you think like, well, I wouldn't want to do that anyways, or like that's not something that I'm necessarily interested in. So I think that it's really big to know who the advice is coming from and what their story is. But then sometimes you get advice, you did want to know the truth, and you kind of have to have your little temper tantrum that you didn't like what they said, and then you have to suck it up and you have to deal with it. You have to say, okay, these are the issues that I have, and you have to be very honest with yourself. Is a big thing, and work through that and figure out, okay, what are the steps that I need to take to be that better person.
Yeah, and,
Yeah, so
just
one
going
of the
off
things
of,
that, I'm sorry, go ahead, Destiny.
oh, no, I was just gonna say, just thinking about what Monisa said earlier about, you know, I do believe that God speaks to people, like through people to you. And so a lot of times when I am talking to like close people that I trust, oftentimes what they're telling me, I've already heard it, but I was stubborn and didn't listen. And so when they're telling it to me again, it's like, okay, like I'm listening now, God, like, thank you for like confirming what I already thought. And so I agree that I don't ask people blindly for advice. A lot of times I'm looking for confirmation from God. And so my discernment is much higher now that I'm older. And I'm self-aware enough to know that I've given advice to people in that same lens. And so I expect people to kind of take my advice also with that same level of discernment.
So one of the things that I wanted to add is, so just in all of my relationships, and all of, you know, the interactions that I have with people, I will always tell people that I never offer advice, only perspective, right? Because I don't want to be responsible for your life decisions. And so that's one of the things that like I want to take myself out of it, right? And say that like I'm not telling you what to do. But if you are seeking advice, I think one of the things that I'm not sure who said it, but it's really important to know who that advice is coming from, right? You're not going to go to your mechanic and ask for medical advice, right? Like you're not going to go to your dentist and ask for financial advice. So like, you know, exactly. They're like, and most people, like, I look at like the way that I go about things and realize that like most people are fucking winging it, right? like unless you are like an expert in a particular area, you are figuring shit out on the fly. So like, who are you to, you know, to better help me with this? And I think the reason that we go to these people is because in most instances, we just want someone to vent to. We're not really looking for advice. We're not really looking for someone to help us with the situation. We just want to talk about it. We just want someone to listen to us. And so in most cases, man, like if you just say to one of your friends, hey, do you have a minute? Like, I need your advice. I just want to tell you what's going on. And like, some people will say, yeah, I got a second. And others will tell you not. But if they do, just talk to them and say, thank you. I just needed to get that out. And you'll feel a whole lot better by not getting bullshit advice from someone who's not qualified to give it to you anyway.
Right.
And I wanted to add on to that. I just literally put a status up about that. How I like how if I'm being asked for advice or something, instead of saying, you know, you need to do this, or you shouldn't do this, or you should do this, I give perspective, like you said. So they may give me a situation and I say, hey, if you go this route, this could potentially, you know, become of whatever the case is, or whatever the the other scenarios are. And I think that's so helpful because it takes that person out of that emotional state and puts them in a logical state. And what I mean by that is they're observing, different perspectives, and they're figuring it out. Okay, what serves my interest best? You know what I mean? And it helps them to think about it more on their own and not really look for you to be barking orders or, saying you need to do that or, do this. So I'm glad you touched on that because honestly, I have been guilty of that, of people venting to me. I'm not able to identify it. And then I'm just like, well, look, this is what you need to do. And, it's like, what, I need to call you back or I'll talk to you for another day. And I didn't understand that until now. So, now that I know that energy, I kind of sit back, let them out. And then if they ask me for their opinion or advice or something, I'll give it. But, just being able to recognize that or whatnot.
All right.
Rob,
So we're going to, go ahead, Nate.
No, I was just going to say, Rob, that's such a great point. And I think that that's powerful because the most important thing a friend, I think a true friend can do is particularly if someone is coming to you in an emotional state, is to try to take them out of the emotion. Because most of the time, no good decision or no good action comes when it's wrapped in emotion. And that's so powerful. So powerful. Not only I think when you're going to someone, but if someone is coming to you, and you have to kind of process or package what they're saying and give them something. The most important thing I know I've done, because I'm that to a lot of my homies and my guys, because I'm a pretty level-headed guy, is to try to take them away from the emotional. I'm like, yo, fuss and cuss at me. Don't go fuss and cuss at your wife, or don't fuss and cuss at your, whatever, your mom, whatever the situation is. And then once you give them a level head, it allows them to do it. So that perspective piece, both you and Ray said, was huge. So I'll leave it there.
Right.
Emotional maturity is so important.
Come on.
So I'm going to pivot for the last question of the evening. We're going to pivot to something a little more relationship based. Are we really looking for love, or are we really looking to be kept?
Man, everybody looking to be kept. Everybody. I'm going to tell it like it is. Everybody wants to be
704-950, baby.
704-950.
Well, I would say, well, what do you mean by kept?
You know exactly what she mean by kept.
I'm like,
yeah, don't nobody want me, so I said I got to get
like
kept.
a sugar daddy, or emotionally,
I think I think based on just from what I see on social media, it's almost like that passive aggressive of what people really want. And I guess just nowadays, again, people want to be taken care of, bills, house, car, whatever, you know what I mean? But it's so passive aggressive when people ask. I don't know. I guess I just see through it. And again, and that's probably like my gift and curse, because I'm black and white, that people want to get taken care of. Men too. They're not gonna admit it on here, but men too. Why they try to say, hey, all these women want to be. No, you do too. You a basement son, and you ain't telling nobody, and it's all right.
So I think more than anything else, like, people just want like security, right? Like, I think that's what it boils down to. So like, women look to men, and I feel like a man with a good job started with him being able to make sure that we're taken care of, not that I can wear Louboutins and get a Gucci bag, right? Like, all that shit is an evolution of a guy having a good job. But like for me, like, to Lauren's point, there are ways in which I want to be kept also, right? Like, I want you to keep me interested. I want you to keep me engaged. I want you to keep me happy, right? So like, yeah, like there are ways in which I want to be kept as well. So I think it's both, money. So like, yeah, we want a relationship, but I want to be kept too. Like, I'll take care of shit if you take care of shit.
Take care of shit. Yeah.
Right. Even swap, no swindle. I'm sorry, Monisa. I know I've been in trouble all night. I know.
You good. I wasn't even about to say anything.
You've been trying to kick me out since the start.
I think I want to add though to something Ray said, because I attend a great church here in Dallas called One Community. And one of the things I've been really pleased about is that they made a very conscious effort to speak about marriages and the facts about, you know, why marriages fail and how a lot of it they feel like is generational with regard to, you know, this day and age. Everybody's, you know, looking for the next, right? Like nobody really wants to put, you know, in work, you know, into marriage. And I can say this July, having been married, gosh, going on 12 years, that marriage does require a certain amount of effort from both people, you know, to put into it. And I think that the big misconception as it pertains to that is that, you know, a lot of people just ultimately go into it thinking, you know, if it don't work, I can just bounce, you know, and that's whether you have, you know, kids or not, right? Like they just, you know, look at it like, all right. And I think that is an evolved and modern way of thinking. I'm not saying that, you know, divorce is bad or whatever, that's subjective, but I ultimately think that a lot of people are ready to give up before they really even put in effort, you know, real effort as far as trying to make it work. So to go back to what you said, I think Rob, you know, a lot of people do it for the gram, you know, right? They want to put up pictures and, you know, put up stuff and they want family photos and all of that other stuff because they want, you know, like the award or the recognition without having to put in, you know, the work. And anybody who I've ever talked to who's ever been married, whether they've been married 1 year or 50 years, I said it is work, you know, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but like all things, like you have to continue to work at it. You have to continue to communicate, be very deliberate about, you know, your spouse and communication, all things we mentioned earlier, referenced earlier in this call. But I think that sometimes people just get caught up, you know, into the pomp and circumstance, you know, of marriage, but don't want to put in the work. So ultimately, Monisa, I think that applies as well, just with regard to not just relationships, but how, you know, people and how marriage is perceived in this modern day.
Yeah.
I will say, as somebody who has been kept before, there's nothing greater than keeping yourself. And it's kind of a lesson that sometimes you have to learn the hard way. But I think in the way that the question was phrased, or how I'm going to present that the question was phrased, I think that when it comes to material things, you need to be able to take care of yourself. And the building of a partnership and a life, and emotions that you want to have with a partner or a spouse, that's how you need to keep each other. And the material things, they can come later. They're great. They're nice bonuses. But when you choose a person every day, you're not choosing them because of the fact that they can take you on a nice vacation, or that they can give you certain things. It's so much greater than that. And that's what's really important.
And I wish everybody knew that, Lauren. I really do.
Great point.
I really do. Because that's real, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Don't think
Me and we never get to experience that though. I mean, when y'all had some money, y'all rolled up on us and kept us. I keep it is, baby, can you fold these underwear to the left and put them in the drawer? Or can you roll these socks up and put them over here? Can that be something I don't have to worry about? Is there something to eat on the table? We are like simple creatures. The first thing y'all do, if y'all hear kept, y'all think about money. It ain't about money with us. How many times, now fellas, how many times, everybody done ran into a woman that had money, you know, but there's a lot of problems with that too. With money comes options, right? And the thing that happens with money is you got to kind of exercise that and realize that, hey, look, what do I really need? You know, that's the thing you got to understand. Like, you know, modern relationships, people think that they could just continue to take out of it and give just the bare minimum and think that it's just going to run fine. Hell no, especially like if you with a guy, you don't live with them, you got to go above and beyond, because guess what? You can't provide that meal, you can't clean up, you can't iron his shirt, you can't do these things. So it is actually harder. It should be harder to date him than to live with him. And if you're used to putting in that work when you're dating, it'll just come automatically when y'all together, when y'all married. But not a lot of people want to do that. They think that they're deserving. And it's our fault, you know, as parents, and, you know, it's our fault, you know, from the way that we were taught.
Entitlement.
Right, entitlement. They think that, oh yeah, I'm cute, I look good. This, guess what? My granddaddy told me a long time ago, I ain't know what the hell he was talking about. Taught me how to drive when I was 12. He was always trying to advance me. He told me this right here: ass get old. And I was like, what the hell is he talking about? You know what I'm saying? And he'll say like a 2-line and keep moving, you know, and go in the store, get a beer, come back. But he was right, you know, like I think about it, I was like, man, you know, like how much all that you gonna do? And then you get to a point where it's got to come down to some type of substance. And yeah, you look great, but there's somebody over here that's really better in my life. You know, like I don't need money. You know, it's funny because controversial brother, but it's funny to hear the people come on there. Like when you hear the Kevin Samuel type deal, you know, and I'm like, why do y'all keep calling into this brother? You know, he just, you know, I don't understand that. But on the flip side of that, there is a point of reality that you just got to realize that if I got money, I'm not looking for money. So what am I looking for? That's just the reality of life. You know, if I had water, bring food, baby. You know, treat it like you should treat a relationship, right? Like what do they call it? A potluck at work. Everybody got a list, right? I'm gonna bring this, you bring that. You know, you got to do the same thing with your relationship. If you're approaching a relationship with the idea that, oh yeah, you know, I got this great career, this guy with a great career gonna want to be with me. He not, because he's looking for something different. He ain't looking for your ass to be at work all day.
Potluck.
Right, treat it like a potluck, baby. You know what I'm saying? Bring something.
I like that.
That great career, but you gotta look and see what I got.
That.
Right. If I'm ashy, bring me some lotion. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Hey,
like
that's real.
if I got all
That's
the liquor
real.
in my house, bring some chase. You know what I'm saying? If I got soda, bring water. Understand? You know, like open your damn eyes and see what the hell I need. You know what I'm saying?
I brought chicken. Why you bring chicken?
Right.
Why you bring
all
chicken?
bringing the same thing to the table and like, oh, this is great. You know, we started out there, and it's only right that we wrap up there because nobody wanted a friendship or a group of people that all had the same type of thing. And, you know, I laugh when I hear people say, what's the big term you hear? Anytime you're on Clubhouse, you're on Facebook, oh, like-minded people. Hell, I don't want to be around y'all like-minded ass. Because I'm going to tell you this right here. Bring something different to the table. You know what I'm saying? Frugal Freddy said, hey, look, man, I don't want to talk about damn finance all day. He got damn right. I lost $10,000. Frugal Freddy, let me tell you, last week, right? Elon Musk got out there. I lost $10,000, man. Let me tell you something. I don't want to talk about that shit. I don't want to talk. Boy, you come talk to me about some market. Well, I'll slap shit at you. You know what I'm saying? Like, boy, I don't care nothing about no market. Boy, I lost $10,000. Now I'm back. You know what I'm saying? Let me tell you, I'm back.
Picking up now.
Real nigga shit. You know what I'm saying? In the jump in there and do something. So, but what I'm saying, man, you know, like you want people that bring what you don't have. And, you know, whether it be friendships, we talk about friendships, we talk about relationships, we talk about, you know, just in life, even with family, you want people that supplement the areas where you are deficient. That's what it boils down to. So whether you're a man, you're a woman, understand, analyze the relationships you are and realize where you add value. It's ROI, return on investment. And if you aren't getting it out of there, treat every relationship like a business, because business is relationships. A marriage is relationship. A boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what that is now. But all of it is a business. And if you aren't getting a return on your investment, cut it off. Cut it off. You got to let it go. You know, sometimes the fish get too heavy for the line. If you ever been fishing, and I close on this, they call the line that got a test. That's how much weight the line can handle when it's dropped down into the sea. So you can't get no big fat ass fish on the end of that line and think you're gonna reel them in. You can't. You gotta cut it off. And that same thing with your burdens, relationship, or people that you done outpunted your coverage. You know what I'm saying? I done had a few girlfriends in life. I outpunted my coverage. I had to let them go. I couldn't afford them. You know, I couldn't give them that what they looking for. You know what I'm saying? Baby, go ahead, be free. It's the universe. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way you got to look at it. And it's the same thing with every ship that you have. They call it relationship for a reason. Friendship, relationship, because it's supposed to be going somewhere. The moment it stopped going somewhere, let it go.
And I think
I'm sorry, Melissa. My bad. I know I be getting in trouble.
You're good.
Straight from the A, baby. 3
Yo, Al.
I think also, and let me know if you guys agree with this or not. I think our generation has romanticized marriage. And one thing that I've learned, marriage is about 25% about love, to be honest with you. And it's working through those times when it's not social media ready. You know, social media is a highlight reel. Marriage is tough. It's work. It's work. And if both parties are putting 100%, and like you said, Steve, like it's filling in the gaps and doubling down on the value that you add. And, you know, really understanding who you're with. So yeah, like marriage is a full-time job. It's like you got to go to professional development, like going to conferences together as a couple, even if you're married or not. You know, if you're seriously dating someone, go to counseling together to see if this is real. And I think some of us maybe don't think that because it may get too serious, but I think that's a good thing. I know one thing, what I did, you know, when me and my wife was getting engaged and whatnot, we looked at each other's credit reports, and that tells you a lot about someone. And I'm sure, you know, there's other activities that you can do as a couple in preparation for marriage to really understand who they are. So yeah, marriage is about in my book, about 25% about love.
People want the wedding, not the marriage.
Right.
Hey,
Put that same work that they be doing in them engagements with them big ass letters with them lights on. Do that same thing
like
every day.
And the wedding ain't about you anyway.
There's a good old lady that get you one of them right there. See that? Right there.
I want to bring a point up about marriage, and for everybody that's listening, and I've been seeing it lately. I think, you know, no one broke it down to me like about marriage. You know what I got? All I got was it's hard work. That's it. But nobody gave me the breakdown of, hey, your feelings will change on certain things. Your mind will change with certain things. And you and your partner might not be on the same level. And you might have to have that conversation. Like just all these different factors that I don't think people like, you know, really consider when it comes to marriage, you know. And I think it's good to, you know, I'm glad it's some of us on here that's married, that's able to give the real instead of painting, you know, like this picture that everything is perfect. You know what I mean? Because it's not. It's real honest moments, real uncomfortable conversations that, you know, we have or whatnot. So I guess for the people with, you know, who's looking for that, be commitment to the one person in all aspects. I'm not saying you got to be everybody's everything, because to me, human wise, that's not realistic. But just know there's going to be some things that you're going to have to pick up on both ends. And you have to ask yourself, are you ready? Even something as simple as, are you ready for somebody to move in? And
right.
Every single day, you so used to having everything on your own, even something as simple as
looking at that.
Like you really have to evaluate that stuff and go from there, because I see people are caught up on social media with the engagements and the weddings and the different videos and things of that nature. You don't know what work was put in to get to that moment. You don't know what trauma is there, nothing.
Or what work wasn't put in there to get there too.
Right, you know? Right. So it's just like, I just want you all to really evaluate that. Like when you all say, hey, I want to be married, I want to come home every day, I want to have kids and things of that nature. Talk to somebody who gonna tell you the real, that's married.
The truth.
Yeah.
The truth.
So Rob, to your point, I don't recommend if a couple, even if you guys aren't married yet, anybody moving into anybody else's house. If y'all gonna do this, y'all need to get a new spot together, right? Because like because like if I've been in a place for any extended period of time, every corner of this bitch is mine. So any of your shit that's in the way is in the way, right?
And
No, and
the
you
woman
know
gonna
what?
come throw all
but
your
you-
shit out.
Wait a minute, but you know what though? And this is what I had to learn too. Even my perspective on how I would approach things or whatever, everybody is different. So even though you feel that way, pretty much saying like, we need to be invested before people move in with each other and stuff all the time, man. So only thing you could do is just give them the information that
I know it's an argument.
and then it's up to them, but it's just the real. Like, come on, it's the real.
And I
And
think
704 950. It's hard to get them out of there too, ain't it? Tell them about that.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Possible.
I mean, I did move into somebody else's space. That was not a problem. I was like, this is mine. I was like, we're getting new furniture. We're gonna get new bed. But that's also just my personality and how I went into that situation. But one thing I'm super grateful for is having an aunt and uncle who were married they're still married for 40 plus years. And they have always been very honest with me about marriage and the difficulties that come when you have teenagers. They're like, look, it's already going to be difficult when you have kids. But when they're teenagers and you guys don't agree about how you should raise them or your reactions to some very like dramatic things that can happen, it really takes a toll on a marriage. And you have to look at your mission statement and the work that is involved in and just working out those struggles day to day. So, I think that you need to get people who are not going to sugarcoat the struggles of marriage in your life, whether they've been married for 1 to 7 years or 30, 40, 50 years. It's great to have that perspective. And it's also amazing how many people, I think about my friends that got married kind of earlier and unfortunately ended up divorced, or you could say fortunately, because, if it wasn't meant to be, then it wasn't meant to be. But how often they knew that it wasn't going to work out. They knew the red flags and they just got married anyways, because they wanted that fairy tale instead of dealing with all of the issues that were there that needed to be dealt with, and ultimately that they were not meant to be together.
So this conversation has been amazing. We definitely went over time, but I think everybody dropped some amazing gems that anybody would be able to relate to, whether you're single, dating, or married. So shout out to you guys for just bringing some wisdom and bringing some knowledge. And I just really hope that our viewers were able to take something from, what we talked about, not even in this particular conversation, but everything within this past hour and a half that we've been talking about. This has been really, really dope. So those of you that have been staying in tune with Mixed Company, we always do a Black Business of the Month shout out. So I definitely want to acknowledge my co-host. Last month I did my personal business, and so this month we're going to shout out Ray's business. So go ahead, Ray.
So I just want to shout out the Alabama A&M Bulldogs for winning the SWAC championship this season. So my cousin and I, we started a company. We partnered with a Detroit-based brand called Detroit versus Everybody. My guy Sean, my guy Tommy, they partnered with us, and we got this Alabama A&M versus Everybody apparel. Nate is wearing his as well.
Mine in the mail.
Yours is in the mail. We got these things coming. But so just congratulations to all the Alabama A&M Bulldogs. The merch is available at thehillversuseverybody.com. Check it out. If you know anybody that went there, get them a gift for their birthday, for Christmas, for Hanukkah, for all of that good stuff. So thank you very much to Tommy and Sean for the collaborations. Appreciate you guys.
Amazing. Well, guys, this concludes our final mixed company for the season. Again, we are sad to have to leave, but we will definitely be back. We are taking a summer break, summer recess. So this is our last mixed company for a few months. So stay tuned. Make sure you follow the page so you can stay updated on what we have cooking for you guys. And Mixed Company will definitely be back in the fall, bigger and better with more guests, more topics, more great conversation. So we definitely look forward to seeing everybody in the fall. So again, thank you all for all of your support, and we look forward to seeing you a little bit later. Stay in touch and be blessed.